Welcome everyone to this episode of Awaken the Possibilities. I'm your host, Terry Wilderman, and I am thrilled to be able to bring you dynamic, exciting, focused and grounded guests that bring light to the darkness in your world, in business and in life. And let's face it, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And the guests that I'm bringing in are just remarkable people who are really tuned in, tapped in, and turned on to helping you grow your business in ways that you may not have thought of. And that's what Awaken the Possibilities is all about. Today, my guest is the remarkable, dynamic, someone I've known for several years, Melanie Benson. And Melanie is a Profit Amplifier. She has a gift for guiding fast-paced, try saying that fast twice, mission-driven entrepreneurs to thrive financially in their work. She has a proven track record, and by using her techniques, some folks have increased up to 200% in the first 6 months. She hosts a weekly podcast called Amplify Your Success. Imagine that. And she's the author of Rewired for Wealth and the co-author of Entrepreneur.com's Startup Guide to Starting an Information Marketing Business. And her bio, which you can read below here, it goes on and on and on. Welcome to the show, Melanie Benson, and thank you so much for being here in the midst of all of this crazy chaos.
Thanks, Terry. Well, I feel like we are here to hold a very powerful vibration of what's possible. So exactly. We show up and we keep doing the work.
And I love that you say that, because those of us who I call us conscious spiritpreneurs. We are entrepreneurs who are spiritual with a consciousness, who understand certain things about what's going on, and to help others stay grounded and centered on their purpose is so important, because there's so much wobble in the world right now.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Wobble, yeah. So today's episode is about podcasting. And you are the queen of podcasting. The work that we've done, and I've been on your podcast for the Women's Speakers Association. You have done, 600 shows? 600?
I have guested on close to 600 shows. I've interviewed over 500 people over the years. And yeah, I feel like I've got a few learnings under my belt at this point.
So you have a lot to teach us. You have a lot to teach me. Wow. Even though this is my third podcast, and I think you have been on every single podcast. So I'm thrilled you're finally here and Awaken the Possibilities. I always learn so much from you. So I'm curious, Melanie, what is the biggest mistake that podcasters make that you find, whether they're beginners or whether there are folks who have been doing it for a long time?
Well, and let me just check in, because there's really two subjects around podcasting. There's being a podcaster, but there's being a guest on podcasts. And I know what you really wanted to dig in today was this idea of how do we really showcase the powerful message we have by guesting on other people's podcasts, and do it in a way that it can become our best lead source. Like, it can really attract those ideal clients. And so I think one of the things, if you don't mind, Terry, I just want to take a step back and say that one of the things that I think people are realizing as we've moved into this very unique time in our world's evolution is that a lot of in-person experiences are going to move into the virtual environment, right? And so whether you're hosting a podcast or you're guesting on podcasts, this podcasting market is growing at the speed of light. I don't know if you saw this or if you heard me talk about this recently, but podcasts have grown so quickly. At the end of 2008, there was something like 550,000 podcasts logged in Apple or iTunes, depending on what you want to call it, their library. As we closed 2019, that had jumped to 950,000.
Wow.
In 1 year, it grew 400,000, and it's grown exponentially even in the beginning of 2020. And so here's what I see as somebody who has an expertise, as someone who is wanting to share your message and inspire your ideal clients to come and work with you, we have a unique opportunity because about good 60% of those podcasts are people who do interviews of some kind. Right now, here's the cold hard fact. This is where having some boots on the ground and having a few podcast episodes under my belt and interviewing so many people, I learned very quickly that there is, just because you're really good at sharing your message on a stage or in an email or in social media or doing a Facebook Live, doesn't mean it translates well to the podcast world, because most podcasts are audio only.
Yes.
And so some things get lost in translation in audio. So we talk about mistakes. One of the big mistakes is assuming that you can communicate your message, share your message in the same fashion on a podcast that's audio as you would in a in-person stage or in a platform where you get to have some kind of connection visually, because audio doesn't track the same way that visual cues do.
You're absolutely right.
And I think we miss this opportunity. I like to call it, we move people from being interested, right? Like the moment they get on and listen to the podcast because they've read your topic, they're interested. But now we've got two more jobs, Terry. We need to move them into intrigue, which means they're listening.
Yes.
They're paying attention. They're not multitasking and, talking on the phone while doing this or doing something else. They've leaned in and they're listening, and then to invested. Because if we can move them out of interest only and into invested, it means they want more from you and they're going to become a lead in some way, shape, or form.
And that is so important, that lead, because not only can they help you grow your business, they help you grow your podcast.
Yeah.
And the more people that you reach, the more your message expands. You are the amplifier. I'm all about awakening possibilities. And in getting those messages out, we help to elevate humanity.
Yeah. I think as an expert, if you are driven by your passion, you're driven by making a difference, you're driven to have people have real transformation that does positive good on this planet, it is our job to get seen in our message as often as possible in the right audiences so that we can be that magnet that pulls in the people who need us to help them solve the problems they're struggling with.
I love that word magnet. I use it a lot in my own copy, and it really is about magnetizing your message and bringing it in the right way. Now, I know for us, and I know some podcasters are doing this, I'm curious. We do the video, and that goes up on YouTube. We also do the audio that goes up on Acast, that gets distributed all over the place. iTunes, SoundCloud, the other ones are escaping me at the moment. And then we also do the transcript so that we're working with all three areas. Now, one thing that I've seen with the transcripts is that those guests who are runaway trains and don't allow for the pause make the video very challenging, make the audio almost impossible to listen to, and the transcript looks like a bunch of gobbledygook.
Yeah. You're bringing up one of the 17 mistakes that I see people make who are maybe really great experts. They're great in marketing in a lot of ways, but they haven't learned how to translate that to the podcast. And that is their rambling roses. You call it the runaway train. I call them a rambling rose. And so here's what's going on with the rambling rose is they understand the power of story. And that is one of the elements that magnetizes. It is one of the things we want to do. But telling a story in a podcast where you've got 20 to 30 minutes is very different than telling a story where you're in a 3-day workshop.
Yeah.
And so what's happened is that there's another mistake that's embedded in that. And that is the mistake of not having a golden thread. So let me explain what a golden thread is, because this has become quite an intriguing concept to people who've heard it. A golden thread is you have a connection between your topic, your talking points, and something you're going to invite a person to do at the end. And when you're in that rambling rose or runaway train, as you call it, you're lost in your story and you think it's about you. And what's happened is you forgot that the listener is trying to hear what's in it for them. They want to know, what is the connection between this topic and a problem I'm struggling with? Mm-hmm. That's the path between intrigue and invested. I'm intrigued because you're saying things that are interesting to me, and you're kind of stirring up my pain a little bit here, or you're talking about something I've been dreaming about to happen in my life in a positive way. But now we have to really impress upon them how we get them there. And that's that golden thread. And so I think people who are in runaway stories, first of all, they don't have the muscle built of how to deliver showstoppers and sound bites that are magnetic and amplifying. They're just dumping information. Yeah. And in a way, it's kind of an old school marketing paradigm that hasn't been, of course, corrected yet.
And what I have also learned is that my runaway train, your rambling rose, it's the art of the pause. Mm-hmm. Can you address that?
Well, I learned the art of the pause about 18 years ago when I took neurolinguistic programming training. So I went through all levels of the training, from how to do it for me and have my own breakthrough, which was profound, to how to use that technique to help people get unstuck, which I use in my training. And I learned how to use it to command stage, to move people into different emotional states from stage. So the pause is what we do when we're moving energy. Like we want to move energy. We have to create a mental space for what we've said to land. If we don't breathe and pause, the point we've just made can't land.
Exactly. Also, you don't give the podcast host an opportunity to give you or to ask a question that continues with the golden thread.
Yes.
So if you can't ask the question because you're going a mile a minute, I don't know about you, and I'm sure you know this, I tune out. Because you can only process so much. We process in sound bites.
We do. And can I share a little secret trick?
Please.
I don't like calling it a trick, because it's not really a trick per se, but it's a technique of really bringing the pause and memory activators. So one of the things that happens when we're sharing principles, strategies, is a lot of people, the reason they're not getting leads and clients is they're over delivering information. And we could use this in any context, from a podcast interview to when you teach on a webinar, to when you teach on stage, even when you're enrolling a client and you're over delivering information, right? There's a give more habit that a lot of people have. Well, what I find very powerful is to find a way to deliver in something called showstoppers. So a showstopper is a way of organizing your information so the way you share it is organized in sound bites and what I call bold influence formulas. A formula is a way to imprint in the brain to save information in the library, in that very complicated library called our brain, so that when somebody's recalling the problem they're having or a problem a friend is having, it's almost like the memory comes back and goes, wait a minute, I remember something about it. And that's inside your bold influence formula. So bold influence formula could be anything from a acronym to a 3-part formula or 5-part formula, right? There's a lot of ways to organize it, but if you can start to organize your information in formulas, in showstoppers, in sound bites, catchphrases, what happens is the memory locks in differently, it imprints, and the memory can recall it. And then you've been connected. You and your message have been connected to this idea that's recalled when someone needs that support or that information later.
Nice. I love that so much. I'm learning so much just from, and you're on my podcast. So it is about awakening the possibilities. And I do know that the showstoppers and the catchphrases help people awaken those possibilities because it's ingrained in the brain. Got that. Now I'm curious, one of the things that people, because there are so many podcasts that are out there, they want to get above the noise.
Yeah.
How do we as podcasters get heard? How does our podcast get listened to? How do we help to awaken the possibilities in our audiences by getting rid of all the other stuff?
Well, I want to teach a principle, and I want you to really listen in to what I'm about to do, because I'm about ready to demonstrate something I already shared. So there's a pop quiz.
Here we go. I'm in trouble.
Do you put the
I'm in
dots together here, right?
I'm in trouble. Okay, getting paper out.
All right, paper out, take notes.
Getting paper out, taking notes.
So one of the ways I found, and again, I've been in business 20 years. It took me a good 14 years to learn what I'm about ready to share, right? Like I was a little bit of a hard case here. I call it the ROCKS method. And the ROCKS method is relevance, outcome, credibility, and specificity. This method is, I teach this in all of the ways I teach my clients about client attraction, about messaging, about visibility, right? It's across the board in any way, shape, or form. And that is, if you want your topic, you want your podcast, you want your webinar, you want your program to stand out in a very crowded market, you have to make sure that what you're naming things and how you're creating the delivery of that concept has to be relevant. It has to focus on the outcomes, not on the features and the concepts that you're very obsessed with because it's your baby, but it has to really like touch, has to build that bridge between what somebody's struggling with and how they will buy. It has to express credibility. So one of the things I study is buying behavior. I study what moves somebody from being interested to invested. And what I found is that people with a high amount of credibility, who we might consider in the celebrity category, right? They can open up the doors to something. This is why influencer marketing is so powerful. They can literally say, hey, go buy this thing, and everybody runs over and buys it. They don't even know if they need or want it. Most of us don't have that kind of celebrity credibility. So we have to lean on other forms of credibility to move from being, one of the billion people who have a similar message to someone who is interesting, intriguing, and I'm invested in wanting to know more from them. And then specificity is the idea that the more specific we can be in the message, in the name, the more it moves from a vague possibility to a trigger of this feels very real. And specificity subconsciously creates the know, like, and trust factor. It creates more credibility, because if you're specific, then it becomes apparent you really know more about what you're talking about than the random Joe or Jane, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the high level on the ROCKS method. But Terry, I wanted to say one more thing about relevance. You know, we're bringing this information out to our community at a time when we have a lot of confusing world events happening. We have a lot of unknowns. We have a lot of people who are afraid to sell or afraid to keep marketing. We have a lot of people who are questioning, is what I'm doing important in the greater scheme of life, right? And so now more than ever, relevance is a important piece of how we communicate what we do, because if we can map the relevant message of our offerings to the pain and struggle that's our ideal clients are in right now, that trust factor goes up, and the likelihood of buying or working with you goes up. And so relevance is a very important piece of the puzzle, no matter what kind of platform you're using to share your message.
So I'm curious, Melanie, how does relevance dovetail with your passion, your the word was just here and it just went right out, of course, your passion, if I remember it, your purpose. Geez, the purpose, that's what I was looking for. How does relevance equal purpose and passion?
Well, let me share maybe a couple stories of people who've been through what I teach a program called Get Magnetic Messaging, because I found that so many of my clients were not actually able to move their businesses forward because they were not able to master the messaging. And so one of my clients is someone who has a resilience training program, and she's very passionate. It's part of her legacy work. It's something that she does because of her history, and she's trying to help organizations and educational systems how to create more resilience in their workplace, right? Mm-hmm. And yet she knew her programs were not getting out in the greatest way. So there was no shortage of passion, but there was a shortage of results. Mm-hmm. So the bridge is, how do you really understand what your ideal client is searching for versus what you are passionate about? See, one of the big things for people who are passion-driven, mission-driven entrepreneurs is we think because we're passionate about something that everyone else understands why that passion is the key to getting results. But we forget that people buy to solve a problem or to be able to achieve a goal that they dreamed about for a very long time. And if we can't connect the dots with our words, it's very easy to go next, next, next. And so if we come back to podcasts and leveraging this beautiful opportunity we have right now to be in this popular, to share a message on this popular podcast, I'm talking to the people who have pain I'm on a lot of podcasts and nothing's happening, right? Like I'm not getting people interested. Nobody's commenting, nobody's sharing, right? Like whatever that problem is because, either the audience is not right or the communication, the message is not matching what they're struggling with. And it's not helping them see there's something else. So in my opinion, having worked with so many people to course correct this painful, what feels like a block that's so permanent, is put the passion down and start really getting curious and paying attention to, what does my ideal client walk around saying they're struggling the most with? And how can I remap my words between my offer that I know will help them and the thing that they are most anxiously trying to get a solution to? It's the old adage, Terry, you sell people what they believe they want, and then
give them what they need. That has been rolling around for the last 2 weeks. That's that phrase over and over and over again, because I think so many folks are realizing that their messages have been off target.
Yes.
And I just love that you are bringing this back full circle. Thank you so very, very much, Melanie. Now, I know that you have a program that you want to share because your work is so important. I'm anxious for you to get it out to the Awaken the Possibilities audience.
Well, and this is really for anybody who knows that the gap between where you want to be and where you are now is you don't know how to message. You don't know how to get people to see how valuable what you do are. You feel invisible. You feel like you're getting passed over for a competitor who your work is better, that, or you're just as good. It's called Get Magnetic Messaging. It's a 6-part program. And you can get to getmagneticmessaging.com to find out about it. But I would love to give Terry a resource that's absolutely free, just to get you familiar with it, to start to see if this is relevant for you. It's the 17 mistakes you're making in your talks and interviews. It's a little worksheet like this. Yeah. And I walk you through the steps. I have a little video training that goes with it that'll help you unpack it. And you can get that at getmagneticmessaging/ back up, melaniebenson.com/awaken possibilities.
Thank you so much. And folks, it's going to be right below this video, and in the audio, it'll be in the written format. So can you repeat that one more time, Melanie?
Sure.
Well, Melanie, as always, every show you and I have ever done has just been dynamic and has been so much fun. I feel so blessed that you have come to share your incredible leadership, business, and life wisdom with us, because I know that it is landing, and it is landing very, very well. I know it is for me, and I've heard you speak a bazillion times. I can never get enough of you. So it really is a blessing to have you here. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you.
And to the Awaken the Possibilities audience, as you know, we come to you every single week. And to learn about what is going on in our events, go to intuitiveleadership.com. You will see, go into the events tab. You can find the show on YouTube. You can listen to us on all the different radio platforms that are available right now. So thank you for being here, and we will see you next time. To your success, make sure you awaken all the possibilities you possibly can during the week. Take care.